This is Team Genesis with another deck profile. Sorry for the inconvenience. We have not, did one in a real long time because we've been taking care of a lot of situations, and you know, we all have things we normally do. But this is the deck profile on now. I'm here with my teammates. I'm doing a deck profile on my Celestials. It took me a while to actually complete them because some of the cards that I was missing took me a while to find. But basically, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give this a thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, subscribe. So we're gonna start off with the starter. They will be my teammate will be helping me because I'm pretty bad at sounding out words. We're gonna start with Black Candle Ariel. Basically she's she's a G break. Most of the deck is not a G break skill, except maybe like 3 cards. Her skill is kind of plus 1, put into her soul. Take the top card of your deck, put into the damage, and then take one from your damage and put it to your hand. She's actually good for more power on the field because this is mostly a power deck. So she's good for like if you're striding and there's something in the damage that you want to put in your hand. She can help you out. Just like the grade 1 I actually play, that actually works a little better since it's not G break. So enough of that. On to the grade 1s. I play, of course, 4 copies of the Unflippers. Unflip Perfect Arts. This deck does kind of less a lot, especially when you go into strides and grade 3s. I don't play much strides that require counterblast except maybe 4 of them, 4 out of 16 of them, and the most of them it is counterblast heavy. I will tell you that. So 4 of the Unflip Perfect Guards will be perfect, of course. Next will be, she's basically my favorite, is 4 copies of Nursing Celestial. I'm not sure how to say it. Neriel. Her skill is when she's called to rear guard, choose a card from your hand, put it into the damage, and then take something and put it to the hand. She does the same thing as the starter, but since she's on a G break, it actually kind of help you with early game.
Is that a Celestial and Phantom?
Well, this is a Celestial deck, technically. The only thing that's not really Celestials is the grade 2. It is the grade 2 and grade 1 of Peg.
And Triggers.
And Triggers. But of course I'm not going to be playing calling Triggers anyway, the van anyway. But yeah, as long as you have a Celestial as the van, take a card from your hand, put it into the damage, take a card from the damage, and put it into your hand. Great skill, good for early game if you really want her to. Next will be, give me a sec, I'm having a little trouble. 3 copies. Yes. 3 copies of
Absol Celestial.
Absol Celestial.
Bahariva.
If you're, a lot of people are going to have to understand, I'm very bad at sounding out words. So that's why I have somebody help me out. Her skill is good for if you want to stride and you barely have anything in your hand. Because she thought you Soul Blast a Celestial from your soul. And she gets sent to the drop zone. Of course you take a damage. But basically gives you a van that everything in your hand gets a +2 grade. So if you have a grade 1, you can turn that right into a grade 3. And right there you have a stride. So you're going to want to have her. And 3 copies are perfectly fine. You don't want to play 4 because it depends on how you take it. Maybe you might play certain, but for me, 3 of them are perfectly fine. Even if I don't get her into damage when I need her, she comes good for other times that I might need her. But I haven't seen any use of really using her too much, so 3 is perfectly fine. And of course, the last 2 are Thousand Ray Pegasus. I only play 2 because since the deck is not really balanced out as well as I think, I'm rather play just 2. Just to start off, because this is Celestial deck. So if I put like 4 copies, I would have to take out stuff with Celestials. I mean, of course, the great ones are not Celestials, but she's an Unflipper, perfect card. And of course, most of the time, you're not going to want to ride her as the van. Unless you have no other choice. But that is basically my grade 1 setup. You guys have any other suggestions of what should I put in or take out? Please let me know in a comment. Next will be... Oh, my bad. I was supposed to go into this grade 2s. Technical difficulties. And not my part. Because I thought that was the grade 2s. Of course, 4 copies. This does have Legion in it. But of course, 4 copies of the Legion Mate. If you have a Celestial as the van, she gets a +2. Basically, and then if it attacks and it does hit, you get the Counterblast and Soul Blast 1. I mean, Soul Charge 1.
Unflip, Soul Charge 1.
Yeah, Unflip, Soul Charge 1. Of course, if you have something in the damage, it's the same thing as your van. So she's good for late game. Because early game, she's not really going to be too useful much because it depends on what your other grade 2 is. If you somehow do have her on a van and she's in the damage and you somehow put in a rear guard, then, you know, you Soul Charge and Unflip 1. Really good. Next, this might make people a little bit confused about it. Why 2 Nurse of Broken Heart? The only reason I play 2 copies of Nurse of Broken Heart is because playing 3 or 4 of them, playing 4 of them is not going to work out too well. Because, of course, your opponent is going to go for the rear guard. And if they go for the rear guard, yeah, it makes you better because then you won't have to take a damage, but you don't want to make it too known about why you're using that. So 2 is just fine. Especially if you get her in early game, she works really well in late game. But you want to call her out into the back row until you know you can beat your opponent that turn. This one is, of course, my favorite. At 4 copies, a Celestial...
Artistic Celestial, Macarel.
Her skill I like really much is because as soon as she gets to the damage, no matter if it's taken by damage or by a card effect, as soon as she goes to the damage, you take her, you put it to a drop zone, you look at the top 4, you choose one from other than her name, you put into the damage, and then you take the other 3 and you put it at the bottom of your deck. This gets you basically trigger stacking. You can basically stack your deck with her. I mean, it does sound cheating. Don't get me wrong. It does. Don't get me wrong. It does sound cheating. But it's not really your fault that the card literally is helping you stack. Because the card is basically saying, okay, if there's say 3 out of 4 triggers, you take those 3, you put them at the bottom, and right there you know those triggers come up unless you shuffle your deck. But right there, your triggers are going to start going at the bottom, and they're going to start going to the top later in the game. She could, if you really wanted to, you could actually do an infinity loop, especially with the crit. If you could keep putting her into the damage, especially 4 times, and then have the crit somehow come up, you could basically keep doing over again, and it gets so much power. You can gain power so much if you have the right cards on the field. And the last 2 are Million Ray Pegasus. Skill, everybody should know the skill is every time a card goes into damage, it gains +2. This and Thousand Ray is basically right on the spot, is a 16-hit combo. Is a 16k beater. And then if you keep putting stuff into the damage, basically, you can make this up to like a 40-something K. You can make it stronger than your raise to your stride. I like it. Last will be the grade 3s.
Triggers.
Well,
Don't forget the triggers.
Of course, I'm not going to forget the triggers. Next will be 4 copies of the Legion. When she's placed on, she has 2 skills. when she's placed on Van, look at the top 3. Choose one of them, put into the damage. The other 2 go to the drop zone. Then the second skill is her Legion skill. When she's Legion, take the top card of the deck, put into the damage. Then choose one of them and put a call to rear guard. If there's a copy of her or the Legion mate on the in that damage, that unit that you call it gets +5. Like I said, actually good for late game because if your triggers are in grade due to her skill or due to basically crit or whatever, helps you out. You can put it back into the deck and then you can go back and start getting a trigger. Or if you want and you think that your trigger's enough, you take and choose all 4 of them and then the Legion's still in there. The mate's in there, put all 4 copies of her back in there. Make it more interesting for your opponent to worry about. And the last grade 3s is her. Is a Select Celestial. Excellent Celestial.
Yofion.
So you got 2 skills as well. Technically it's 1, but break it down into 2s. She's an axe skill, she's damage. She's very good for damage. When she's into the damage and you do have a copy of anything that's the Van herself or the Legion, or even the Legion mate if you're a Legionnaire. Calabash 1, well, of course with Celestial in its name. Call her to rearguard, and she gets +3 from her own skill. If you have a copy, so you call to an open rearguard, gets +3, and then of course you take another damage. So it's good for basically making more cards go into your damage, and then maybe you'll figure out what is in your damage that can help you out, or what's on the field that helps you out. More power. And a lot more pushing it, if you want to put it that way. Last will be the triggers. 4 heal triggers. Doesn't really matter what heal triggers you apply. I just like her more like it. These are the ones I'm talking about. Is the Celestial Crit. Her skill is actually really good, especially with the grade 2. She goes back into the deck. If you have a Celestial at the Van, you put it back into the deck. You shuffle it. You look at the top 3. You choose one of them, put into the damage, and then the rest go to the drop zone. So if you somehow have any of those cards that do power boosting, and you do have her, and she does come up in the hand, you put her into the damage, she'll go right back into the drop zone, and you can basically do your shenanigans out. But she's good for basically put more triggers, basically shuffling your triggers back into the deck, because if she at least goes back into the deck, you have a good chance of pulling her off, or at least pulling something that you might need. Next, 4 of the rescue stand triggers. The reason why I play him is he actually helps you in late games, especially if your opponent's at 5 damage, less hand, and he's boosted. Any rear guard, you Calabash 1 at the end, goes back into the deck, shuffle, then you heal 1 of your damage and you take it. And there's a chance that I do play 5 stand triggers, so there's a chance that you could get any of these 5, or you could get a crit or something, and basically it can help you out with the Van or with the rear guards. You can stand your rear guard, you can crit your Van, or you can heal yourself. Or we can use the last one is 3 draw triggers. I put 3 because there's no room to fit anything else. I play 3, so her skill is if she's in the damage, you Calabash yourself, get +3 to the Van. She works good for giving your Van extra power, extra 3k power. She is actually really good for basically late game, or it could be early game too, if you want to make your opponent take extra damage or guard for extra. And of course, the last of everything else will be the strats. 4 copies of the Celestial Stride. Skill is you take a Celestial Rearguard, put into damage, take one of the damages, and you call it to a Rearguard, to an basically to an open Rearguard. Actually, just to a Rearguard actually. Then you choose up to 3 units, and if any of those 3 are in the damage, all your units get plus 3k for each of those in. So if you have, say, you choose 3 of your Rearguards, and all 3 of them are in the damage, they all gain, every Celestial on your field gains plus 9. And plus, on top of it, if you do start doing power pushing with grade 1s or grade 2s, you tend to get more power pressure into it. And then your opponent's going to have to guard for less or start taking more damage, which is actually good for you. Next, of course, is just here. Holy Celestial Raziel. That was bad. It's good for actually early game. If you have notice a Broken Heart on the field, and you do have a lot of triggers in your damage, Soul Blast 2, put all of them back into the deck, shuffle, and then you take the same amount of damage. And of course, his skill can actually work in your favor, especially if you're running low on triggers. You're at 5 damage, and you have 3 out of 5 are triggers. Put them back to the deck, shuffle, and your chances of getting those triggers back or anything worse is, pretty high. It's pretty low. If your chances of getting triggers back again is pretty low, because if you're running low on triggers and those it helps you out. 3 copies of Holy Seraph.
Sekiro.
Zakiro. Her skill is Counterblast 1. Choose a card face down, choose it face up, and your whole front row, if there's at least 1 flipped up damage, all your front row gets plus 3, all your front row rear guards gets plus 3, and if there is 5 damage, she gets plus 10. There's just nothing to really say about her. Is more power added to you. And that's why I do play at most. Just to start off with the strides, if you don't want to call anything else out, he could be starting off so you could get into the game more into it. So it's like if your opponent's at like 2 damage, do this, and you do some pull card, you put them to 4. Or if they do want to guard it, it's like, okay, perfect guard or basically 3 grade 0s. But it's still going to be pretty nasty, especially with all the power you do. Last, of course, is the G guards. I only play her because if you're at 4 damage, she gets a plus 5. No really use to playing all 4, just how to play 3. And last copy of her. She's a rescue ability. I only use her if I really think that she's necessary. If I know I'm going to hit a trigger somehow. But it's Counterblast 1, you choose a damage, you heal it, and then you take 1. And if there's somehow be a trigger, she goes up from, 26, from basically all the other 26 to a 31. And she can maybe even help you heal. If your opponent's at 3 and you're at 4, you heal, you take it, and then you can heal. Basically, that is my entire deck. I hope you enjoyed the video. And have a good, whenever you guys see this, have a good even day, night. See yous. You too.